Hey, what is up guys? My name is Cameron Gallagher, and today we're going to be talking about the Triune Films Horror Sound Effects Pack. Now, the awesome guys over at Triune Films, which you do not know, is Film Riot, sent me a copy of this to review. Now, I'm not getting paid for this review, so I can say whatever I want, and they are not. I have no obligation to say anything good about it, but I will tell you, spoiler alert, I do love it. So, if you don't know Triune Films, they're basically Film Riot. Film Riot makes the Triune Films and Triune Store, tons of digital downloads, a bunch of different sound effects packs, LUTs, a bunch of different things. And this is a sound effects pack that is strictly marketed towards horror films. So, you know, different types of horror sound effects. So I'm going to kind of tell you guys what I think of it, kind of show you around what it is, and sort of just go from there. So I made a short film to showcase these sound effects, which you can check out in the link below. I'm also going to put it like on the video so you can see here. But either way, check out that short film. It is made basically 100%, I think, other than like 2 sound effects. One was pre-recorded of like this water, which I recorded myself, and room noise. I'm pretty sure other than that, every single thing was from their sound effects pack. So basically, the sound effects pack comes with a bunch of different things: ambient, chainsaw, creaks, doors, Foley, gore, upstairs, and weapons. Now, there's a ton of sounds in each of these, and one of the biggest things that I love about this sound effects pack, which I think makes it really stand out from the others, is its inflection. So one of the biggest things that I find is when I buy sound effects packs, or I just get sound effects like royalty-free offline, is, you know, like a creaking, you know, wood floor sound is very generic. It's like one sound and that's it. I think the biggest thing that Triune Films did in an amazing degree in the sound effects pack is they made a bunch of different sounds with different inflections. So they have tons of different creaking sounds or door opening sounds or things upstairs, and they all sound a little bit different. So not a single one sounds exactly the same. So that way, to give an example, I was watching behind the scenes of The Mask of Zorro, and they were talking about sound effects for swords. And one of the biggest things they said is it's not coming up with, you know, it's not the fact that you have a million different sword sounds. It's the fact that each sword sound has to sound different. So again, I think that's one of the biggest things in this short film, and I think in any film. And also I think it's one of the biggest selling points to me from this sound effects pack is the amazing inflection. So let's kind of get into it. So one of the biggest things that I love, first off, is the ambience. Oh, I'm actually going to make all these. These are all the gore ones. I'm going to move these into a new bin. One of the biggest things I love is the ambience. Now, what these are is a bunch of like ambient sounds that you put underneath your short or your feature film. I think these are great. Like we have a few different sounds here. Again, these like very cool, just like deep, ominous things that you could put underneath. These, to me, are some of the biggest things, too, because this can go underneath anything. Of course, horror is the best, but you can do some thriller, stuff like that. I think this entire catalog of ambient sounds are just amazing, and I think it's what sets it apart from other sound effects packs, too. You usually get like a sound effects pack that has you know, just like normal sounds, where this ambience is so nice because it honestly comes up more than probably sound effects do. So I was really, really glad that they had such a huge selection of these. They have these kerfluffles, they call them, which I love the name. And I actually used these as like a sound design. Now what I did was, you'll see right at this part of the film, I actually used them down here as kind of sound design. You'll hear. I use it again here. As well as the creaking door, I added some reverb to that, and that kind of gave this cool sound design. So these ambient sounds and some of these creaks and stuff can actually be used as like sound design, and not just, you know, visual sound effects that we should be hearing. Now the next one is chainsaw, and this is obviously a lot more specific, and it's something that, of course, you have to have a chainsaw in your film for. But one of the cool things that I also found, and I mean there is tons of sounds in here, waves, swinging it, in reverse, I think this is. Oh no, just revving it up. Okay. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of different sounds. But what I did is actually at the end of the film, I dropped the pitch on it and kind of made this like scary crescendo. So it just kind of makes this like really abrupt ending, and this like, you know, you can kind of tell it's a chainsaw, but I think it's still cool and it still kind of makes a nice sound. So again, these are a little more specific, but I like these and they're very cool, especially if you're doing like a, you know, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre style film. Like it would just be really cool. Creaking. Now, there's a ton of different creak sounds in here, and these are awesome, and I use these all over. So we have, a bunch of different kinds here. And like I said, one of the biggest things that I loved is the different inflections you can hear. They all sound a little bit different. Some are deeper, some are higher, some are longer, some are several different clicking sounds. And I use these all across the film, and I think it's really cool because I think sounds are much more effective in horror films than visuals are. Take a short film, for instance, Lights Out. I think that is one of the scariest short films, one of the reasons why it became a feature film, especially for its sound design. If you watch that back, the creaking floor, the light switch, the sound of the running across the floor, those are things that I think make that short film so creepy. A lot of people are scared at the end when there's that jump scare, but to me, it's the entire, the suspense being built. And I think creaking floorboards, things like that, that is probably the number one way to have suspense. So again, these are just, I really, really like these. I was actually really impressed. I thought it was going to be like one or two, creaking sounds, but I believe there is 93. Yeah, so there's like more than enough. And again, those are kind of what we use for the sound design right here. That little, and I think it sounds really cool. And again, that's something you can do. Like, don't think of these sound effects as just simply sound effects. They can be used for pretty much anything. So now we have the doors folder, which is kind of like banging doors, that kind of stuff. If something were to, I think we have kind of old school. So again, like, these can be super eerie. Then we also have the door banging. Whoops. I think it was a different one I wanted. So again, those can be used in pretty much any scenario. You can make it louder, and it could sound more like a door. It could be just a cabinet door. Again, those are you could even use them as like a hitting point, like a dramatic punch when something were to happen in a film. And the next one we have is Foley, which this is really cool because there's a lot of different like various things in there. We have door banging. I think there's one with 3 in here. Yeah. Again, those are very cool, especially for like some really creepy, like if I think The Conjuring had a scene with that where someone was banging on the door. So stuff like that is great. We have, again, you can kind of see just hearing these how much they can do. Scratches. That's really creepy. Those would be great if you're doing something like someone's behind a door, you hear banging and scratching, stuff like that. And there's also, I think, like some squeaks. Like as if stuff was being pulled against a wall, someone's being dragged away, that sort of thing. So those are really cool too. Those are a little more specific, I think, too, to what's going on. But I mean, door slams, those are pretty much like everything. You could even use those for, dramas or action or anything like that. Then we have gore. Now this one's really fun. There's 139 sounds in here, and some of these are really crazy. So like if you're doing, I think this would be really cool. Like if you're doing a sound effects, or if you were doing a film that was like a 70s like grindhouse, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, something with a lot of blood sounds and chainsaw and all those different things, this would be really cool. Obviously there's a lot more, you can do anything supernatural like we did here, but if you're into that sort of stuff, the blood and gore is just insane what we have here. Squirting, again, a bunch of different inflections, which is what really impresses me about this pack. Dripping, what's the other drip sound? So there's just a ton. Ooh, finger break. Ooh, decapitation. So you can see, how these could be. So you could see how these could be really huge. Stab. And again, that could be for action films. Let's see, neck slit. Where was that? I just saw that. So again, these are really cool because these are stuff that you could use in like, gory horror films. They couldn't be action films, someone being shot, something like that, all the different types of inflections. But again, it's the inflections to me that impresses me the most, is that there's so many different variations that you can use one sound or mix a couple different sounds and they just sound perfect. Then we have upstairs. I think this is super handy. One of the things I'm a biggest fan of is having something in a different room, sounds from upstairs like we did in this part right here. And I use some of the upstairs footsteps. And again, there's a ton of different ones, like a body drop. We had stomps. And again, you could, here's like the... And the thing is, these are all mixed and mastered, so they sound good. Obviously, you want to mix and master into your project, which we'll talk about after I kind of talk about this review. But that's the thing, is these all sound so good. Like, those sound, I'm not exactly sure how they recorded them, but they sound like they're upstairs. They sound perfect. They don't sound like too muffled or too clear. They're perfect spots. So again, these are great for having, like a ghost in the house and something's walking across the upstairs like we did, or if something were even in a different room. And then lastly, we have weapons, which this is really cool because we have a bunch of knives. I think those are really nice. We can obviously... So I would say, like, if you're... Really, that's the thing, is this sound effects pack kind of covers a lot of different horror genres. The chainsaw, the gore, and the weapons were more like that gore type horror or that slasher, that sort of thing. The weapons remind me of Scream a lot. And then you can use the creaking, the doors, the Foley, the upstairs, some more of those paranormal types of horror. So that's the kind of thing, is they've really made a great sound effects pack, I think, that branches out over all different types. Of course, they're 100% royalty free, all that kind of stuff. But it's something that I can download and I can use on several different horror films, not just one or two or specific types. And especially the Ambient, I can use it on every horror film, no matter what you're doing. So that's one of the things I think is great about this pack, is just its overall versatility in horror films, whether it's a feature, short, from indie to professional, wherever you are in between. I think it's something that everyone can definitely use. So anyway, that is the end of the review. So that is the end of the review part. And if you want to get these... So that's the end of the review part. Now, if you want to get these, you can go to Triune Store. I have a link down below in the description. And... I know for some people this may be a little bit pricey, but I think you have to look at what you're getting, the quality, the fact that it's 100% royalty free. You don't even have to, I don't think, give quality, I don't think you have to give credit, which is also awesome, because it's sometimes tough to have like a bunch of different credits for sound effects, things like that. But honestly, this is an amazing price for this pack. And I think if you're serious about making horror films or just films in general, this pack is a must-have. Like I said, everything from the creaks and the doors and the ambience is awesome. And of course, they always do have sales, so see if they got a sale going on. But even at this full price, I think it is 100% worth it. And I think a lot of their products are worth it. I own a lot of their other products too, and they're just quality. And the thing is, I think you're going and you're helping out other filmmakers. Film Riot has helped me as a filmmaker, so it's great to kind of give back. So I definitely 100% recommend these. Please visit the link in the description to check those out. But before I go, I want to talk to you about using sound effects in your project and how you should do this properly. I think one of the biggest problems that we do is we buy, LUTs or sound effects or different things, presets, and we drop them on our footage or under our footage, and we say, hey, why does this sound weird? Like, why does this not sound good? And I think one of the biggest things, now obviously the Triune Film sound effects pack is mixed and mastered, so they have that covered, which some other sound effects don't. So that we're already an advantage there. But generally after that, what you have to remember is that you have to put these sound effects in your film. They have to morph into your film. For instance, in this beginning, we have these floorboard creaks down here. Now, obviously, the camera is far away from our subject. So if I were to have these super loud, it would seem really awkward. So you can kind of hear how they sound. Again, they're kind of muffled. They're far away. We're far away. She's wearing socks. So it's not going to be, you're not going to hear these like massive loud creaks. So again, something just by dropping the volume, adding a small EQ, which I just added this kind of like, it's called beefy snare, but just kind of brought up the bass a little bit. And then same thing when it comes to using these as sound design. So, not sound design, but for something more paranormal. So in this paranormal creak that we, is like the ghost. What I did was I panned it all the way to the left, so it's just in the left speaker. And I also turned it up a little more because it's closer to where we are in the frame. And I also added some reverb, so it kind of had this like ghostly vibe to it. And then with the actual sound design, I used some reverb on this guy right here. So again, it kind of took that like really basic floorboard creaks and turned it into something really creepy. You could have like a delay to it, things like that. And then also for these upstairs footsteps, what I did is, this first one's going to be loud because we want to kind of not scare us, but like, oh, what is that? So I turned it up a little bit. And again, I added an EQ on these. I wanted these to be really muffled, so they didn't have much high-end detail, so they sounded like they were upstairs. And then what I did was I actually panned these right to left, because in the film, the camera is moving right to left, and we are expecting our ghost to be moving up top from right to left. So you can kind of hear that. And it slowly goes into the left-hand side of the frame. So that's a really cool trick to make sure that, you know, something feels right. I mean, I think a lot of times people forget about where sound effects are coming from in the actual field. You know, these sound effects are above you. Now, we don't have, you know, Dolby Atmos. But what we can do is just pan it right to left so it still feels like it's moving. And same with this knife sound. Well, not same with it, but what I did was I just made, you know, in real life when we pull a knife out, it's not super loud, especially when she's trying to be quiet. So we turned it down a little bit and added, I don't know if I actually added the EQ on that at all. But again, it makes sense. And that's the thing. Don't forget, when you plop these in your timeline, don't just expect them to work in your scene perfectly. You're going to have to mix them a little bit. But the nice thing is they're all mixed and mastered properly, so it makes it easier to mix. And same thing goes for these creaks. Now, these creaks are going to be louder because we're in her shoes. It's point of view. So they're louder than the ones in the beginning because we were far away. So again, that's one of those things you want to think about when using sound effects is volume, where it is in your frame, you know, panning left and right, or if, you know, if you're doing a 5.1 mix, that's cool too. And also just things like effects, you know, if you add some reverb, if you do an EQ, a lot of these creaks have an EQ, same, that kind of beefy snare that brings a little more bass up in them, so it sounds like this deep, you know, underlying creaking sound. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please go over to Triune Film store and give them some love. Seriously, this is an amazing sound effects pack. I am honestly very impressed with it. So definitely go check those out. Pick those up if you need them. Or if you don't, hey, you know, why not have them in your arsenal for the future? But anyway, these are awesome sound effects. I'm so happy that I have them. Hopefully, going to do some reviews on some of their other products. I'm hopefully going to do some reviews on some of their other products coming soon. So be sure to subscribe to check those out. Like the video, share it with your friends. I just think this is a really cool sound effects pack, and you know, I think that everyone can definitely use it, but especially if you're, you know, a horror lover like I am. Please go check out my other channel that has the short film and some of my other short films. Hope you guys enjoyed those too. Hope you guys enjoyed this short, and hopefully I'll have some more videos soon, and have a good one.